There is a silent moment that changes every person's life. It rarely arrives with applause. There are no warning signs, no dramatic music, no grand announcement. It comes disguised as something ordinary, a joke at your expense that everyone laughs at, a promise someone casually breaks because they assume you'll understand, an interruption while you're speaking, as if your words carry less weight than everyone else's, a text message ignored for days by someone who somehow finds time for everyone else. Most people brush these moments aside. They tell themselves, it's not a big deal, but it is, because these moments are never about the joke. They are never about the interruption. They are never about the forgotten promise. They are tests. Human beings are constantly, often unconsciously, measuring one another. They are trying to answer a question they may never say aloud. How far can I go with this person? Your answer is rarely spoken. It is revealed. It lives in your posture, your decisions, your consistency, and your willingness or unwillingness to defend your own standards. Every interaction quietly updates your reputation, not the reputation you try to create. The one your behavior actually earns. That reputation becomes your invisible identity. And once people decide who you are, they begin treating you accordingly. Some people spend their entire lives wondering why they are overlooked, why their kindness is mistaken for weakness, why others seem comfortable disappointing them. The answer is painful because it is simple. They have unknowingly trained the world to believe there is no price for disrespect. Now imagine someone very different. This person doesn't raise their voice. They don't threaten anyone. They don't constantly remind people that they deserve respect, yet something about them changes every room they enter. Conversations become more thoughtful. Insults disappear. Promises are kept. People choose their words carefully. What is the difference? It isn't size, it isn't money, it isn't status. It is something much harder to build. It is certainty. Not certainty that they will win every battle, certainty that they will never betray themselves. That certainty creates an invisible force stronger than intimidation, because the strongest people don't convince others to respect them. They remove every reason not to. That is where our journey begins. Picture an old castle standing alone on a hill. For hundreds of years, storms have struck its walls, armies have marched toward its gates, winds have carved its stones, yet it remains, not because it attacked every enemy, because it never abandoned its foundation. Now imagine another structure built from beautiful wood, elegant, comfortable, admired, but every season it bends a little further. Every storm removes another piece. Every visitor takes something home. Eventually nothing remains. Most people build their character like the wooden house. They change depending on who is standing in front of them. One personality with friends, another at work, another online, another with family, another around people they admire. Every version is designed to gain approval. The result is exhaustion. And strangely enough, less respect, because people instinctively trust consistency even when they disagree with it. There is something deeply unsettling about a person who cannot be bought by approval. They become difficult to manipulate, and anything difficult to manipulate immediately becomes more valuable. Think back to your childhood. Perhaps there was a teacher everyone respected, not feared. Respected. That teacher rarely shouted. They rarely punished anyone, yet somehow the classroom became quiet the moment they entered. Now think about another teacher, one who yelled constantly, threatened everyone, demanded obedience every day. Ironically, that teacher often struggled the most to control the room. Why? Because authority borrowed from emotion is temporary. Authority built on consistency lasts. People eventually stop reacting to loud voices. They never stop reacting to reliable consequences. This is one of the oldest truths of human behavior. We adjust ourselves according to what reality teaches us, not according to what people claim. Imagine meeting someone for coffee. They arrive 40 minutes late. They don't apologize. Instead, they laugh. Sorry. You know how I am. You smile politely. No worries. The following week, they do it again, egging you forgive. A month later, they cancel at the last minute, egging you say nothing. Months pass. Eventually, they stop respecting your time altogether. You begin wondering what changed. Nothing changed except your standards. Not the standards inside your head, the standards you enforced. People cannot see your private expectations. They only experience your public boundaries. This is where many misunderstand respect. They believe respect begins with confidence. It doesn't. Respect begins with consequences. Every healthy relationship contains invisible consequences. If trust is broken, something changes. If promises disappear, something changes. If loyalty vanishes, something changes. Without consequences, standards become wishes. Now consider nature. A mountain never asks the river to flow around it. It simply exists. The river adapts. The mountain never negotiates its shape. It never apologizes for occupying space. Strength often looks like stillness. Weakness often disguises itself as endless movement. Many people spend years chasing respect by changing themselves for everyone they meet, trying to become funnier, kinder, more agreeable, less intimidating, less opinionated, less ambitious, less successful, less authentic. Eventually, they become smaller and smaller until they no longer recognize themselves. Ironically, the more they shrink, the less people value them, because human beings naturally respect those who respect themselves first, not through arrogance, through clarity. There is a dangerous myth in modern life that being endlessly available makes you valuable. The opposite is often true. Scarcity creates appreciation. Imagine two books. One is available in every home, every store, every shelf. The other exists in only a handful of copies. Which feels more precious? The same principle quietly shapes human relationships. When your attention is unlimited, it loses value. When your approval is automatic, it loses meaning. When your time belongs to everyone, it truly belongs to no one. This does not mean becoming cold. It means becoming intentional. There is a difference. Cold people reject others to protect their ego. Intentional people protect their time because they respect their purpose. One pushes people away. The other invites the right people closer. History remembers countless leaders whose greatest weapon was not force. It was emotional discipline. When everyone else panicked, they remained calm. When everyone else shouted, they listened. When everyone else rushed, they waited this confused opponents. Because emotional reactions reveal your position, calm conceals it. Think of a game of chess. The strongest player rarely celebrates after every move, nor do they despair after every setback. They understand something beginners rarely see. The game is longer than the moment. Life works the same way. Someone insults you today. The inexperienced mind believes the battle is the insult. The disciplined mind asks a different question. What response serves my future better than my emotions? Sometimes that response is direct confrontation. Sometimes it is distance. Sometimes it is silence. Wisdom lies in choosing rather than reacting. Here is a scene that plays out every day. A meeting room. 10 people gathered around a table. Ideas move quickly. Voices overlap. One person begins speaking. They are interrupted. They stop talking. Another interruption follows later. Again, they fall silent. Soon they speak less and less. Eventually, nobody asks for their opinion anymore. Across the table sits someone else, not louder, not more intelligent. But when interrupted, they calmly say, "I'd like to finish my thought." No anger, no apology, just certainty. The room adjusts. Notice what happened. The words were almost insignificant. The standard was not. The first person taught others that interruption was acceptable. The second person taught others that attention was expected. Small moments build enormous reputations. People often believe confidence is something you feel before you act. Reality is usually the opposite. Confidence grows after repeated acts of self-respect. Every boundary you enforce becomes evidence. Every promise you keep to yourself becomes proof. Every difficult conversation you refuse to avoid strengthens your identity. Eventually, your mind stops asking, "Can I do this?" Because your actions have already answered. Self-respect compounds exactly like interest in a bank account. Tiny deposits become enormous wealth. Tiny compromises become enormous weakness. Every day you make one deposit or one withdrawal. No exceptions. There is another mistake people make. They confuse kindness with surrender. Ken says, "I want good things for both of us." Surrender says, "I will sacrifice my dignity to avoid discomfort." These are not the same. True kindness requires strength. Weakness wears kindness as a disguise, and people instinctively know the difference. The strongest individuals can forgive without becoming foolish, help without becoming exploited, love without becoming controlled, say yes without fearing no. That balance is rare, and rarity commands respect. As you move through life, remember this. Every interaction is writing a sentence in a story people tell themselves about you. If the story says you abandon your own standards to keep the peace, people will expect that chapter to repeat. If the story says your words match your actions, your boundaries are clear, and your self-respect is not negotiable, the story changes not overnight, not through speeches, through consistency. Because respect is not won in a single dramatic moment. It is earned in hundreds of quiet decisions no one applauds, and those decisions create something most people spend their entire lives searching for. A presence that speaks before you ever say a word. Imagine this, a crowded room. Conversations overlap. Laughter echoes from every corner. Glasses clink. Music hums softly in the background. Everyone is trying in one way or another to be noticed, and someone decides to test you. Perhaps it's disguised as a joke. Perhaps it's a dismissive comment delivered with a smile. Perhaps they interrupt you mid-sentence, turning their attention to someone else before you've even finished speaking. The room waits, not consciously, but instinctively. People want to know what happens next. Will you become defensive? Will you rush to explain yourself? Will your face betray frustration? Will your voice rise, or will something entirely different happen? This is the moment where reputations are built or quietly destroyed. Most people believe power is displayed through dramatic reactions. They imagine confidence as bold speeches, sharp comebacks, or public victories, but life rarely works that way. The strongest people often appear almost ordinary in moments of conflict. Their secret isn't that they never feel anger, it's that they never allow anger to choose their response. That single difference changes everything because emotions are contagious, but so is composure. Principle 2. Emotional control is intimidating. Think of a deep lake at sunrise. Its surface is perfectly still if a pebble into it and ripples spread across the water. Now imagine a puddle after a storm. The smallest disturbance turns it into chaos. Human beings are remarkably similar. Some people are emotional puddles. Every criticism creates panic. Every disagreement becomes a personal attack. Every inconvenience ruins their day. Others resemble the lake. The same challenges arrive. The same insults are thrown. The same disappointments appear. Yet they remain steady, not because they lack emotion, because they have trained themselves not to become servants of it. People are deeply unsettled by those they cannot emotionally control. Why? Because manipulation depends on predictable reactions. If someone knows exactly exactly how to make you angry, they possess influence over your behavior. If they know exactly how to make you seek approval, they can shape your decisions. If they know precisely what triggers your insecurity, they can quietly steer your actions without ever touching you. The moment your emotions become predictable, your freedom begins to disappear. This is why emotional discipline is one of the greatest forms of strength. It protects your choices. Think about a skilled chess player. A beginner celebrates every captured piece and panics at every loss. An expert hardly changes expression. Why? Because they understand that one move is not the entire game. Life follows the same pattern. Someone insults you. That insult is only one move. Your response determines the next 10. The impulsive person fights to win the moment. The disciplined person acts to win the future. That is why emotional control often looks like silence. Not because silence is always the answer, because silence creates space for wisdom. There is a story repeated in countless workplaces. A manager publicly criticizes two employees. The first reacts immediately. Their voice grows louder. Their breathing quickens. They begin defending every decision they have ever made. Soon the conversation is no longer about the original issue. It becomes about their reaction. Their competence disappears beneath emotion. The second employee listens. They ask one calm question. What specifically would you like me to improve? The room changes. Attention shifts. The discussion becomes practical instead of personal. Both people received criticism. Only one gained respect. Not because they were perfect, because they remained in control of themselves. That is a lesson worth remembering. People may forget your argument. They rarely forget your composure. The strongest individuals understand something few others do. Every emotional reaction has a cost. Anger costs clarity. Panic costs judgment. Desperation costs dignity. The question isn't whether emotions are good or bad. They are simply human. The real question is this: who is making the decision, your values or your feelings? Feelings arrive without permission. Values are chosen. When values lead, emotions become information. When emotions lead, values disappear. There is another reason calmness commands respect. It creates uncertainty. Imagine trying to move a heavy stone. You push harder and harder, yet nothing happens. Eventually you stop, not because the stone attacked you, because it refused to move. Many people abandon manipulation for exactly the same reason. If every insult fails to provoke you, if every attempt to embarrass you falls flat, if every effort to drag you into unnecessary conflict is met with calm restraint, eventually they look elsewhere. Manipulators are attracted to easy victories. Do not become one. This does not mean accepting mistreatment. Silence should never become surrender. There are moments when speaking directly is necessary. There are moments when walking away is necessary. There are moments when ending relationships is necessary. The difference is intention. You are no longer reacting. You are choosing. Choice is power. Reaction is dependence. Never confuse the two. Now let us move to a principle that quietly governs nearly every relationship you will ever have. Principle 3. Never reward disrespect with your attention. Attention is one of the rarest resources in modern life. Every notification competes for it. Every advertisement wants it. Every platform profits from it. Yet most people give it away as if it costs nothing. It is easy to believe attention is harmless. It isn't. Attention tells people what matters. It tells them what affects you. And in many cases, it tells them how to influence you. Think about a child in a crowded room. If positive behavior receives no attention, but misbehavior instantly attracts every adult, what lesson does the child learn? The behavior doesn't matter. The attention does. Adults are often no different. Some provoke not because they hate you, but because your reaction makes them feel important. Your anger becomes their reward. Your endless explanations become proof that they occupy your thoughts. Your outrage gives them significance. Without realizing it, you begin paying people who have done nothing to earn your time. Picture an old marketplace. Every merchant protects their finest goods. No one places gold in the middle of the street and walks away. Yet people do something remarkably similar with their attention. They spend hours arguing with strangers. They replay insults in their minds long after everyone else has forgotten them. They lose sleep over opinions from people whose advice they would never seek. Slowly, almost invisibly, they hand over the most valuable currency they possess. Not money, time, energy, peace. Every minute spent feeding unnecessary conflict is a minute stolen from your own purpose. Imagine two travelers climbing the same mountain. One stops every few steps to argue with everyone passing by. They debate directions. They defend themselves against criticism. They answer every insult. Horse past the summit remains far away. The second traveler acknowledges only what truly matters. They keep walking by sunset. They stand where the first traveler hoped to be. The difference wasn't talent. It was focus. Life rewards focus far more often than brilliance. One of the hardest lessons to accept is this: not every accusation deserves a defense. Not every misunderstanding deserves correction. Not every critic deserves an audience. There is a quiet confidence in allowing insignificant opinions to fade on their their own. Imagine trying to erase every footprint on a beach. By the time you've erased one, another appears. Some battles multiply simply because you keep fighting them. Wisdom is learning which ones deserve your strength. Consider someone who constantly seeks conflict. They insult people online, they spread rumors, they provoke arguments wherever they go. Why? Because conflict gives them visibility. The moment everyone ignores them, their influence begins to disappear. Some fires survive only because people continue feeding them. Remove the fuel, the flames eventually fade. The same principle applies in everyday life. Not every challenge requires confrontation. Sometimes the most powerful response is to continue building the life that no longer depends on the approval of those determined to distract you. Your attention is shaping your future every single day. Whatever receives your focus grows focus on resentment. Resentment grows focus on fear. Fear grows. Focus on purpose. Purpose grows. This is why disciplined people guard their attention so carefully. They understand that attention is not merely observation, it is investment, and wise investors are selective. There is a profound difference between being available and being accessible. Availability means you have time. Accessibility means everyone has unlimited access to your emotional world. Protect that access not with walls, with wisdom. Lam trustworthy people to know you deeply. Lam your principles, not passing emotions to guide your decisions. Let your attention become something earned rather than automatically given. The moment people realize they cannot control your focus with drama, they begin approaching you differently because they understand something has changed. You are no longer reacting to life, you are directing it. And those who direct their own lives are far more difficult to disrespect than those who allow others to direct their emotions. There is a strange truth about power that most people discover too late. The world rarely respects potential. It respects proof. You may possess extraordinary intelligence. You may carry remarkable ideas. You may dream of changing your life. But until those qualities become visible through action, the world has no reason to treat them as real. Human beings don't respond to promises nearly as much as they respond to patterns. One impressive day means little. 10 consistent years become a reputation, and reputation has a gravity all its own. People begin to expect excellence from those who have earned it. They expect reliability from those who consistently deliver. They expect strength from those who have demonstrated it under pressure. This is why the strongest form of confidence is never declared. It is accumulated. Principle 4. Become difficult to replace. Imagine walking into a small village where everyone knows one another. There is a single bridge connecting both sides of the river. Every merchant depends on it. Every traveler crosses it. Every family uses it. Now imagine that bridge disappears overnight. Life changes immediately. Why? Because something essential has been removed. Now picture another road that almost no one uses. It disappears and hardly anyone notices. People often ask why some individuals command extraordinary respect. The answer is rarely mystery. They have made themselves valuable, not through self-promotion, through contribution. Value changes the way people think. When someone consistently solves problems, people seek their opinion. When someone remains calm during crisis, others naturally look toward them. When someone develops rare skills instead of chasing constant attention, their presence becomes increasingly difficult to replace. And people instinctively protect what they cannot easily replace. Look at the craftsperson who spends years mastering their trade, the surgeon who studies long after graduation, the musician who practices while everyone else sleeps, the entrepreneur who quietly learns from every failure instead of announcing every ambition. None of them become respected because they demanded admiration. They become respected because competence speaks a language louder than confidence ever could. There is a dangerous temptation in every generation to appear successful before becoming successful, to collect admiration before earning mastery, to chase visibility instead of ability. But appearances are fragile. Reality always catches up. The applause fades, the image cracks. Only substance remains. That is why true confidence never depends on pretending. It grows from keeping promises to yourself when no one is watching. Ask yourself a difficult question. If you disappeared from the places that matter most, your work, your relationships, your community, what would people miss? Would they miss your personality, your humor, your presence? Or would they struggle because you consistently created value that no one else provided? This is not a question meant to diminish you. It is an invitation. Every skill you develop becomes another brick in the foundation of your independence. Every hour invested in learning reduces your dependence on luck. Every improvement makes disrespect increasingly expensive. Not because you seek revenge, because people naturally hesitate to lose what benefits them. There is another lesson hidden inside this principle. Do not confuse being busy with becoming valuable. Many people spend entire years rushing from one task to another. Their calendars are full, their minds are exhausted, yet little changes. Movement is not progress. Imagine two archers. One fires 100 arrows without aim. The other spends time studying the wind, adjusting their stance, breathing carefully, then releasing releases a single arrow, which one reaches the target. Precision often accomplishes what endless activity never can. The same is true in life. Choose a skill worth mastering. Protect time to improve it. Allow your work to become your introduction. Eventually, your results will speak before you enter the room. Principle 5. Stop chasing approval. There is an invisible prison that traps millions of people. Its walls cannot be seen. Its locks cannot be touched. Yet countless lives are shaped by it. The prison is built from one question: what will they think of me? Notice how much power that question gives away. Every decision begins belonging to someone else. Should I wear this? What will they think? Should I pursue this dream? What will they think? Should I say no? What will they think? Slowly, without realizing it, your life becomes a performance directed by an audience that changes every day. No actor can satisfy every audience. No person can earn universal approval. The attempt itself becomes exhausting. And the tragedy is this: the more desperately someone seeks approval, the less authentic they become. People may smile, they may compliment, they may applaud, but deep down they recognize uncertainty, because approval sought at any cost is unstable. The moment criticism appears, it collapses. Picture a tree standing alone in an open field. The wind arrives from every direction. Some days it bends, some days it loses leaves, but its roots remain deep. Now imagine a leaf carried by the same wind. It has no direction of its own. It travels wherever the next gust decides. Many lives resemble that leaf. Opinions become commands, trends become identity, praise becomes fuel, criticism becomes catastrophe. But people with deep roots behave differently. They listen, they learn, they adapt when necessary. Yet they never abandon their principles merely to avoid discomfort. This is not stubbornness. It is integrity. Integrity is not refusing to change. It is refusing to betray what matters most. Think about the people you have respected throughout your life. Were they perfect? Probably not. Did everyone agree with them? Almost certainly not. What made them memorable? They stood for something. Their actions aligned with their words, even when it was inconvenient, especially when it was inconvenient. Consistency builds trust. Trust builds respect. Respect creates influence. The sequence cannot be reversed. You cannot demand influence before earning trust. You cannot earn trust while constantly changing your values to fit the crowd. There is an interesting paradox. The less you need validation, the more your presence changes. You stop explaining every decision. You stop arguing with every critic. You stop trying to convince people who have already decided not to understand. Instead, your energy returns to where it belongs: your purpose, your growth, your relationships with people who demonstrate mutual respect. Freedom begins when your self-worth no longer depends on applause. Quit authority. Walk into any room filled with experienced professionals. Before anyone introduces themselves, you may notice something. Some people speak constantly. They rush to impress. They offer opinions on every subject. Others say very little. They observe. They ask thoughtful questions. When they finally speak, the room becomes quiet. Why? Because every word carries weight. Scarcity creates value. This applies not only to material things, it also applies to speech. Talking less does not make someone wise, but speaking with intention often reflects wisdom. Quiet authority is never about appearing mysterious. It is about respecting words enough not to waste them. Imagine a master craftsperson showing an apprentice how to shape a piece of wood. The apprentice swings the tool wildly, eager to finish. The master moves slowly. Each motion is deliberate. Each cut has purpose. Horrors later, the difference becomes obvious. The apprentice worked harder. The master worked better. Life often rewards thoughtful precision over frantic effort. The people who command lasting respect rarely chase every opportunity to prove themselves. They let their work, their discipline, and their consistency speak first. As the years pass, people will test you in different ways. Some will question your patience. Some will question your resolve. Some will underestimate your ability. Do not rush to prove them wrong. Instead, become so committed to your own development that their opinions gradually lose relevance. The strongest answer to doubt is not an argument. It is evidence, not once, repeatedly. Remember this. Respect grows slowly, almost invisibly. It is built every time you honor your commitments, every time you improve a skill instead of protecting your ego, every time you choose principles over popularity, every time you refuse to exchange your identity for temporary approval, brick by brick, day after day, until one morning, people begin treating you differently. Not because you demanded it, but because your character has become difficult to dismiss. And that transformation begins long before anyone else notices it. It begins with the private decisions you make when there is no audience at all. Every story reaches a moment of truth. Not the moment where everything becomes easy, the moment where everything becomes clear. Imagine standing at the edge of a forest just before sunrise. The air is still. The trees cast long shadows across the ground. Somewhere in the distance, a single bird begins to sing. Nothing dramatic has happened. And yet you know the night is over. The darkness has not been defeated by force. It has simply lost its power. Real strength enters your life in much the same way. It does not arrive in one spectacular victory. It arrives through hundreds of quiet choices that slowly transform the way you carry yourself. One day you realize something has changed. The people who once interrupted you now wait for you to finish. The people who once ignored your time now ask before demanding it. The people who once underestimated you begin choosing their words more carefully, not because you became louder, because you became clearer. Principle 6. Boundaries mean nothing without consequences. There is a sentence sentence many people repeat that sounds wise, but often accomplishes very little. You need to respect my boundaries. The words themselves are not the problem. The problem is what usually follows. Nothing the boundary is announced, ignored. Announced again, ignored again. Eventually, everyone learns the truth. The boundary exists only in language, not in reality. Imagine a kingdom surrounded by magnificent walls. From a distance, they appear impenetrable, but every gate is left unlocked. Anyone can enter, anyone can leave. The walls become decoration rather than protection. Many people treat their personal boundaries in exactly the same way. They say no, then immediately explain until the no becomes a maybe. They forgive repeated dishonesty without requiring change. They complain about disrespect while continuing to reward it with unlimited access. Every time this happens, a silent lesson is taught. There is no cost for crossing this line. Human beings learn from consequences far more quickly than from conversations. That is not cruelty, it is reality. A child learns not to touch a hot stove because heat teaches faster than warnings. Adults are no different. When actions never produce consequences, expectations slowly disappear. The strongest boundary is often the quietest. It does not threaten, it simply acts. If trust is broken repeatedly, the relationship changes. If promises become empty, responsibility changes. If respect disappears, access changes. No speeches, no revenge, just reality. Principle 7. The strongest response is sometimes absence. There is an old saying that silence speaks louder than words. People often misunderstand it. Silence is not powerful because it is mysterious. It is powerful because it forces reality to speak. Imagine a person who constantly disrespects a loyal friend. They assume forgiveness will always arrive, another chance, another excuse, another conversation. Then one day something different happens. The friend simply leaves. No dramatic farewell, no public argument, no desperate attempt to make the other person feel guilty, just distance. Only then does the weight of their actions become visible. Presence is easy to overlook. Absence is difficult to ignore. This is why your time should never be treated as something that everyone automatically deserves. Your attention is a privilege. Your loyalty is a privilege. Your trust is a privilege. Privileges are protected, not handed away carelessly. Walking away is not about punishing someone. It is about refusing to participate in patterns that destroy your peace. Some doors are not meant to remain open forever. Closing them is sometimes the healthiest decision you can make. The quiet strength few people notice. Spend enough time observing genuinely respected people, and you begin to notice something remarkable. They are rarely obsessed with appearing powerful. They do not constantly remind others of their achievements. They do not measure every conversation as a contest to be won. They have nothing to prove because their identity is no longer built on other people's opinions. There is an enormous difference between confidence and performance. Performance asks, did they notice me? Confidence asks, did I remain true to my principles? Performance changes with every audience. Confidence remains the same. This is why deeply grounded people often seem calm in situations that overwhelm everyone else. Their center of gravity is internal. Praise does not inflate them. Criticism does not destroy them. Success does not make them arrogant. Failure does not make them quit. They have learned one of life's greatest lessons. Circumstances change, character remains. Build a reputation, your presence. Protects, think about a mighty oak tree. For years it appears to grow slowly. Season after season, almost nothing seems to happen. But beneath the surface, the roots spread farther and deeper. When the storms finally arrive, people admire the strength of the trunk. Few recognize that the victory began underground. Character develops exactly the same way. Every promise you keep to yourself becomes another root. Every difficult conversation handled with dignity becomes another root. Every temptation resisted becomes another root. Every act of discipline strengthens what no one else can see. Eventually the storms come: criticism, failure, betrayal, loss, pressure. And while others collapse beneath the weight, you remain standing, not because you were lucky, because your foundation was built long before the storm appeared. The highest form of respect. Many people misunderstand the purpose of strength. They believe the goal is to make others afraid to disagree, afraid to challenge them, afraid to speak honestly. But fear created through intimidation never lasts. The moment power disappears, so does obedience. There is a higher form of influence. It is built on reliability, integrity, self-respect. People hesitate to disappoint someone whose standards are clear because they know those standards are real. They trust someone whose words consistently match their actions. They value someone who refuses to compromise their principles for temporary comfort. This kind of respect cannot be demanded. It must be earned, and once earned, it becomes remarkably durable. Final story: imagine two travelers arriving at the same mountain. The first spends every day shouting into the valley, demanding recognition, demanding admiration, demanding respect. The echoes are loud, but they fade quickly. The second traveler says very little. Instead, they begin climbing. The path is steep. The weather changes. They slip, they fall, they stand again. Years pass. One morning, people searching for direction look toward the mountain, not because someone demanded attention, because someone reached the summit. Your life will always offer the same choice. You can spend your energy convincing people that you deserve respect, or you can spend your energy becoming someone whose character quietly makes disrespect a costly mistake. One path is built on appearances, the other is built on substance. Only one lasts. The closing truth, remember the question from the beginning. What happens if someone crosses you? By now, the answer should be different, not because you become cruel, not because you become vindictive, not because you seek revenge, but because crossing your boundaries now has natural consequences. You no longer abandon your values to avoid discomfort. You no longer trade your peace for approval. You no longer argue with every critic or chase every misunderstanding. You protect your attention. You guard your integrity. You improve your skills. You choose your relationships with care. You speak with intention. You act with consistency, and slowly, almost invisibly, your reputation changes. People begin to understand something without you ever needing to announce it. Your kindness is genuine, but it is not weakness. Your patience is real, but it has limits. Your silence is calm, not surrender. Your confidence is quiet, not fragile, and your respect for yourself is no longer negotiable. That is the moment everything changes, because the most powerful people in the room are rarely the loudest. They are the ones whose presence reflects discipline, whose actions reveal integrity, and whose character remains steady regardless of the situation. Become that person, not for status, not for admiration, but because a life built on self-respect cannot easily be shaken by the opinions of others. The world will always test people. That will never change. What can change is your response. Stand firm without becoming rigid, be kind without becoming naive, be calm without becoming passive, be confident without becoming arrogant, and let your life become undeniable evidence that genuine respect begins long before anyone else offers it. It begins the moment you decide that your own principles are worth protecting. If this message challenged the way you think, carry one idea with you today. Respect is never secured by demanding it. It is earned by living in such a way that your words, your actions, and your standards become impossible to separate. When that happens, you won't need to convince the world of your worth. Your life will do it for you.